Well, beloved, this is an interesting question. Why do I think the world gets more evil every day? Well, you know what? It has little to do with who we are operating on this planet and more to do with who we are as far as what the Father created us to be. The evil didn't just start with us, and it's only getting worse because the enemy, his darkness, has begun to take over. And in the Bible, it talks about in the end times, gross darkness will cover the earth and even the people. And so that's why you see rampant racism right now. You see hatred abounding. You see selfishness beyond. You see people being callous and cold-hearted. And it's a sign of the times, beloved. It's a sign that we are in a moment where reality, humanity is shifting. And in prophecy it says the whole earth is groaning, waiting for the manifestation of you and me. Everything is waiting for us to figure out that we hold the key to changing it all. The Father put himself on the inside of each and every one of us. And he gave us his word. Although they try to corrupt it, we now know the truth. He gave us his word. He made us speaking spirits like him. He made us able to speak to mountains and they be moved. He came to the earth in the form of Yahusha to show us how to walk this thing out, to show us what the greater works look like, and told us that we would do those greater works when he went on to be with the Father. It's waiting on us. And because we're looking around thinking that we're wrestling with people, we're not fighting the right battle. And essentially, the body of believers are asleep on the battlefield. We are taking fire. And we have casualties and we have woundedness from generations that span for thousands of years. And not many of us are awake to it. So it's interesting that you asked this question because, I've been dealing with my own warfare, truthfully, and it has been a lot, and it's been for a very long time. And now that I'm stepping more boldly into the calling that the Father has in my life, I understand why. I get it. I get all of it. If I was the enemy, I would be coming after me too. But the interesting thing about the way that the Father works is all the stuff that he has allowed to even show up in my own life, all of the trauma, all of the drama, all of the heartache, all of the betrayal, all of the rejection, all of the slander, all of the misunderstandings, and just the identity crisis, honestly, all of it is pushing me right into the position that he needs me in so that I can lead and guide my children and perhaps be an example or a vessel that he's using to help lead and guide you. This past week has been one of the scariest weeks I've had in a very long time. And this past few years has been the scariest I've had in a very, very long time. It's forcing me to trust in him, and it's forcing me to lean into faith more. But the other thing it's doing is it is forcing me to put the word on my mouth and speak with fire like I never have. It is forcing me. I used to have this poem that I would write, that I wrote, and actually it was kind of like the makings of a song, but it basically was saying, you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing me. You're pushing me right onto my throne. And that's exactly what's happening. And we have to allow the pain and the drama and the trauma to push us into our position of authority and dominion and take it all back. So this past week, when I was dealing with all of this stuff, I started writing warfare prayers for myself. And I wanted to just call down fire from heaven to intercede in my life, and like, this should not be. I'm trying to do the right thing by the Father, and I'm walking in his way, and I'm trying to be obedient to everything he's telling me to do. He's got me waking up all hours of the night and holding out on food and doing all the stuff, and praying and just doing all the stuff. And so I'm like, no, we're not doing this. I'm not going to be in this position. This is not happening for me, and it's not happening in my life. And so after I finished that first prayer, then I thought, you know what? Let me write about my body. What's happening with my body? Y'all, it has been a 25-year struggle. I've had opportunities where I did walk in healing, but pain is a horrible thing, and I have dealt with it every day of my life since I was 30. And some days it's easier, some days it's old hat and I'm just used to it. But this is not acceptable. And so I wrote a warfare prayer about infirmity and the spirit of infirmity that will come against the body of believers, to keep us focused on that and not focused on the Father, not focused on the promises. And so when I finished writing and confessing that prayer, then I started praying over provision in my home and all of that. And then I started praying over my children. And then I started praying over my voice and the vision that the Father has put in my life. And it just, at the end, there were 7 prayers. And they were not little bitty cute prayers. They were crushing the teeth in the enemy's mouth prayers. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, Father, what are we doing with this? And he told me that we're going to do a 7-day warfare prayer challenge, and that I'm going to begin to release these prayers and give them to you, and that we all are going to be praying them together collectively, and we are going to break through and create light in the midst of all of this darkness. So I have been working on that for all of us. And then I went out on a Chat GPT, and I asked Chat GPT, what happens in the atmosphere, in the ethers, in the world, energetically, spiritually, physically, metaphysically, what happens when a woman prays? And then Chat GPT kind of just revealed to me a lot of the same stuff that's in the Word. We know that it breaks chains and all of the things, right? And I'll go into more detail another time. I'm on a time crunch. But then I said, what happens when 2 people pray? Because we know that the Father in the Word says that when 2 or more come together in agreement, there am I in the midst of them, and that 1 can send 1,000 to flight and 2 can send 10,000 to flight, right? And so I said, I know that there has to be something that happens that breaks free when 2 people pray. What about when 10 women pray? And I'm specifically asking about women. No shade, brothers, but women, we are not built the same. We are different vessels, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Excuse me. And then I said, what about when 100 women pray? And what about when 1,000 women pray? Now you throw the brothers in on that too, and the children too. What happens when 10,000 women pray and bring in the rest? What happens when 100,000 women pray? What happens when 1,000,000 women pray? And ChatGPT gave me this narrative that blew my hair all the way back. I could not believe what happens. Literally, things shift completely when we are in alignment. And so I said, okay, Father, I guess that's what we're doing. We are doing a 7-day spiritual warfare challenge where we are going to collectively pray. And I want us to bring everybody we know into it, so that collectively we are calling down fire from heaven to bring light into the midst of this darkness, to change the atmosphere, to change this realm, to change the enemy's foothold on the kingdom of and the body of believers. Now we know that prophecy is already written, right? But he also tells us in the Word that 1,000 might fall by our side, 10,000 at our right hand, but it shall not come near us. Only with our eyes will we see the destruction of the wicked. And we know that there's some wicked folks. And he also said that we get to choose life or death, blessings and curses. And he said, choose life so that you and your seed can live. So in just a day or two, I'm going to be releasing the login information. It's going to be free. We're going to start next Monday. Put a link, or put in the comments I'm in if you think you want to join us. It's going to be, we're going to shake the kingdom. All right? Take good care. Thanks for the question. Keep them coming. Hallelujah.